Vietnam aims to upgrade stock market to emerging market by 2025.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of BizLight. After nearly 10 years of preparing to upgrade the stock market, at the present time, with the high determinations of all government agencies and ministries, Vietnam is in the final stage to board the emerging market trend. Upgrading to emerging markets will bring great benefits in many aspects to Vietnam's stock market, contributing to the goal of developing a safe, transparent, effective, and sustainable capital market, creating favorable conditions for macroeconomic stability. And according to estimate, Vietnam can attract tens of billions of dollars from direct and indirect foreign capital flows after being upgraded. And one of the important factors in deciding to upgrade is the objective assessment of international rating organizations through the actual experiences of foreign investors. And to better understand this topic, we have invited to the studio Mr. Matthew Smith, Head of Research, One Top Vietnam Securities Company. Well, thank you for joining our program. How do you evaluate Vietnam's ambitions when setting the goal of upgrading the stock market to emerging market FTSE by 2025 and MSCI by 2026?
The ambition, of course, has been there for a long time, but I think that the determination more recently has been far more impressive than sort of what we've seen over the past few years. So, to be fair, the past few years have been very strange years, given the impact of COVID from 2020 really through to the end of last year. So the government had other probably more important issues on their plate that they needed to deal with, and that's fair enough. But here we are in 2024, and it's good to hear that the determination among the highest levels of government seems to be stronger than what we've heard in the past. So I think we're all yourself and everybody on the buy side and the sell side in securities industry are very positive on this.
Vietnam's stock market is positioned in the frontier market segment, reflecting the significant speculative nature of trading activities, leading to investment funds accessing this market that are often small in scale and tend to be high speculative direction. This is considered a major barrier for investment funds in developed countries to enter the Vietnamese stock market. Therefore, upgrading to emerging markets creates many significant benefits. First, it attracts investment capital from exchange-traded funds, ETFs, and traditional investment funds with investment principles according to FTSE standards. Second, the trading value of ETF funds in the emerging market group also solves the daily liquidity problem of the market. Third, the upgrade helps improve the ownership ratio of foreign investors, which will limit the sharp fluctuations of the Vietnamese stock market when the market depends too much on domestic individual investors, thereby reducing speculation in the stock market. Fourth, increase investors' confidence in the Vietnamese stock market, thereby solving the problem that the stock market is an effective capital mobilization channel for businesses, thereby reducing risks to the economy and banking system.
What will the growth scenario of the stock market be like if Vietnam's stock market is officially upgraded?
Well, I think in the very near term, in terms of the impact on the market, I think that the things that need to be done in order to get the upgrade by themselves are very positive for the market. So, for example, fixing some of the settlement problems in the old market system by replacing it with the new market system, I think that actually will create a more efficient market and also bring a lot more fund flows from domestic investors. The same thing I think is true of fixing the issues that foreign investors in particular face from the pre-funding requirement. That if the pre-funding requirement will remain, but if the brokers are able to take on the counterparty risk of their clients, then their clients will trade a lot more, and that I think will have a strong benefit for the in the very near term for share prices. More liquidity, higher valuation, which is all for the good, and this is before the upgrade actually occurs. So the positives here are near term, but also in the longer term. And I think to the heart of your question, what does it mean? It means that there's far more global investment funds will be allocated to Vietnam than is the case currently. Vietnam, of course, is the largest constituent in the frontier markets index, but to be very generous, the frontier market index is not a very important index globally. It's kind of like being the big fish in a very, very, very small pond where the water is drying up. So it's not a great position to be in. But going into the emerging markets, even with a 1% weighting in the emerging markets would be huge for Vietnam. And what it means effectively is that there's more capital resources to develop the economy, to develop Vietnamese industry going forward. It moves away from being sort of a bank credit centric driven economy to a more diversified economy in terms of the funding sources, which is wonderful for the long-term development of Vietnam's economy.
The upgrade of the stock market to an emerging market is estimated to result in an immediate capital flow of $2.5 billion US. Enhancing market liquidity is crucial to achieving these goals.
Ta dẫn vốn vào như thế nào và ta có khả năng hấp thụ hay không, và ta có kiến tạo được niềm tin của các quỹ đầu tư nước ngoài để giữ cái vốn đó một cách thực sự lâu hơn, dài hơn và rộng hơn để nó lan tỏa cả cái thị trường. Thì cái điều kiện cần tiếp theo đó chính là quản trị minh bạch gắn với lại ESG và phát triển bền vững.
Following a period of cautious trading, foreign cash flow is beginning to return to Vietnam's stock market to capitalize on opportunities.
Tôi mới đi qua Đức tháng Giêng vừa rồi, bình luận về câu chuyện vĩ mô ở Việt Nam. Người ta rất quan tâm, thậm chí người ta mời mình quay lại trong năm nay 2 lần nữa để mà bình luận tiếp. Gần đây tôi nghĩ là xu hướng của các nhà đầu tư nước ngoài là mua chứ không phải là bán.
During the conference, the Prime Minister urged ministries and branches to collaborate in removing obstacles to enhance the stock market. The goal is to foster a healthy, effective, and sustainable approach. With the resurgence in profits of listed companies and the implementation of drastic measures to develop the market, a promising year is expected for the market.
It can be seen that the current Vietnamese stock market is not very friendly to foreign investors. What are the problems that need to be resolved?
The KRX system will provide the technical solution for the first one, for settlements. For example, I think that MSCI and FTSE have both asked for is same-day settlements, the ability for brokers to net settlements off against each other, so that it just creates a more efficient market than the current system can allow. Just technically, the current system doesn't fix that. So the adoption of the KRX provides the technical solution. I believe that there will also have to be changes in terms of how the regulators look at it. The prudential regulations for the exchanges and for the brokers also, I think, need to be changed. But I think that is all very feasible and doable once KRX is up and running. So that's for settlements. Now for pre-funding, I think you could actually do it already. It's less of a technical issue, I think, than a regulatory one. In effect, in other markets, the brokers will take on the risk of their clients in order to facilitate their trades. So the clients will make an order, and maybe whenever the settlement happens, maybe the next day, the funds need to be there when the settlement occurs, instead of having the funds be there at the time that the order is placed. So that is a solution, or that particular problem, I think, can be resolved simply by changing the regulations to allow the brokers who have the risk management capacity to take on that risk for themselves. And what does that mean? They need to understand who their clients are. They need to have sufficient capital in order to fund the trades. If the client defaults, the broker then has to take on the risk of that trade. So they need to have enough capital to set aside to handle that. The big brokers here, I think, are quite willing to provide that capital and quite willing to provide that service. For smaller brokers who don't want to provide that service, that's fine. They don't have to.
Vietnam is expected to attract about $2.5 billion if the stock market is upgraded. Securities companies believe that the bottleneck related to 100% deposit for foreign investors can be removed. Instead, there should be regulation to stipulate the non-margin to equity ratio.
Có thể rơi vào 300 tỷ, 500 tỷ hay 1.000 tỷ một công ty chứng khoán trong cái ngày hôm đó. Có nghĩa là tổng thể toàn thị trường là mình sẽ tính được ngay. Cái khả năng mà họ mất khả năng thanh toán cho những cái khoản mục mà khá là nhỏ so với vốn chủ sở hữu của như vậy đấy là bằng không.
If the transaction is successful, but foreign investors have not paid enough money, securities companies can use proprietary trading to complete the transaction.
Các công ty chứng khoán sẽ bỏ tiền ra để thanh toán. Sau đó thì các công ty chứng khoán sẽ phải tự xử lý với các nhà đầu tư để thực hiện bồi thường lại cái nghĩa vụ mà công ty chứng khoán đã bỏ tiền ra để thực hiện thanh toán cho các lệnh giao dịch trước đó.
To ensure the obligations of the parties, 16 banks which are depository members in Vietnam take the role of depositing, preserving, and transferring securities to foreign investors.
Ngân hàng lưu ký đang quản lý một cái tài sản khá là lớn của các cái nhà đầu tư nước ngoài, thì chúng tôi cũng sẵn lòng là đóng một cái vai trò cầu nối trong cái tiến độ thanh toán làm sao nó cho nó nhanh nhất để đảm bảo thông suốt.
In order to upgrade the market, the State Securities Commission of Vietnam and market members have prepared solutions. However, regulations need to be adjusted and supplemented to implement them.
Chúng ta phải sửa một số điều của Nghị định 155 và một số cái văn bản của thông tư hướng dẫn của Bộ Tài chính. Thì chúng tôi hy vọng trong thời gian sớm nhất sẽ trình các cấp có thẩm quyền để sửa đổi những cái quy định đó, hạn chế những cái rủi ro và đảm bảo cái tính công bằng, công khai và minh bạch ở trên hoạt động của cái thị trường.
So in case in September, FTSE announces that Vietnam cannot upgrade its stock market yet, then what will the growth scenario be like for the Vietnamese stock market?
If the settlements problem and the pre-funding issues are addressed, I think what that means, from at least from an initial perspective, is just provide the information that you provide to your Vietnamese shareholders, provide it to foreigners in English at the same time. And I'm just talking about financial disclosures here. So balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement, and any meaningful, material changes that you might announce, such as M&A or a big share divestment. Those things should all be announced at the same time in English as they're announced in Vietnamese. And I think a lot of people that you talk to, in particular investors, fund managers, will also say that they want to see a reform to the FOL, foreign ownership limit constraints. My personal view is that's probably less of an issue. My clients will not be happy for me saying this, but I think that the main issue here is really about language, about disclosures in English, rather than about FOL. And the reason I say that is, although I would love to see FOLs lifted, but other countries in the emerging markets index have foreign ownership limits. Thailand has foreign ownership limits, and it's been an emerging market since, I think, the 1980s. So, and even China, which is a huge component of the emerging markets index today, actually has foreign ownership limits as well. But somehow that didn't keep China from becoming an emerging market in 2014 or 2015. So again, I think that the FOL thing, of course, we'd like to see that go away. I'm a foreigner. I'm a broker here. I would be very happy if they address that. But I think that the main thing really is just about English language disclosures.
How's foreign capital flowing into Vietnam stock market recently?
I think in the first 2 months of last year, it was very positive. Because in the fourth quarter of 2022, when the market collapsed, foreigners were net buyers, substantial net buyers of over $1 billion in the fourth quarter. And most of that came in the middle of November to the end of December. And foreigners were also net buyers in January. This year, we're basically flat in the first 2 months. right? Foreigners were net buyers in January and net sellers in February, so almost zero. I think the number is negative $5 million or something like that. So it's really not much of a change in the first 2 months of this year. And what's interesting, I think, is that since the the announcements by the SSC and by the Prime Minister about targeting a FTSE upgrade in 2025, the markets have done very well. Share prices have risen. But it hasn't been foreign investors that have been the buyers. It's actually the local investors, domestic individuals, and some proprietary traders who are, again, domestic investors that have been driving the market up until the last few days, and foreigners have continued to sell. So I think that if we actually get to the point in September where FTSE makes the announcement, this is really probably the first leg of what should be a multi-year bull market, because the foreigners haven't even started to buy.
So what is your overall assessment for this Vietnam stock market for 2024 as well as after 2025?
They've done pretty well. Vietnam last year outperformed the region. It's actually outperformed the region again in the first 2 months of 2024. So it was the number one market in terms of share price performance in ASEAN in 2023, and again number one in so far in 2024. What that means, in my opinion, is profit taking rather than necessarily an overtly bearish view on the market. If the foreigners get the sense that FTSE is about to upgrade, I think that we could see those flows turn around very quickly. Really, in the past 3 or 4 months, based on my interactions with foreign institutional investors, they're all doing the work on Vietnam now, which they haven't really been doing for the past few years. They pay attention to a certain extent, but there's a lot of funds that have no investments here that are now researching the market quite deeply, trying to get a sense of how the market works. What are the right stocks? How do they want to be positioned? They haven't invested yet, but they're getting ready, I think, for this upgrade to occur, and they don't want to be too late, in trying to understand the market.
On March 12 in Tokyo, Japan, a financial investment promotion conference took place with the theme, Vietnam Investment Destination. The Vietnamese side shared information about Vietnam's stock market, which is an attractive and important medium and long-term capital channel.
Các nhà đầu tư Nhật Bản từ trước đến nay đã đầu tư hết sức bền vững và có hiệu quả tại gói Việt Nam. Vì vậy cho nên là chúng ta sẽ kéo công nghệ cũng như kéo vốn và từ các cái doanh nghiệp của Nhật Bản.
Japanese investors evaluate Vietnam's stock market as a potential market. The size of stock market capitalization to GDP will be at least 100% and is an attractive destination for foreign investment capital. To develop the stock market, two important criteria are business development and improving investor confidence. Vietnam's stock market is having reforms to upgrade the market from frontier to emerging.
Việt Nam đang khắc phục một số những cái tiêu chí như là bỏ cái ký quỹ trước khi giao dịch đối với nhà đầu tư nước ngoài. Thứ hai là công bố thông tin minh bạch. Thứ ba là tỷ lệ sở hữu nhà đầu tư nước ngoài. Cái thứ tư nữa là cải cách các thủ tục hành chính để mở tài khoản vốn gián tiếp nước ngoài tại Việt Nam và một số những tiêu chí khác.
During the dialogue, the Vietnamese side shared information and answered questions from representatives of Japanese businesses and investors about the Vietnamese government's policies in developing the financial market and attracting foreign investment capital flows, with the common motto, act together, succeed together, win together.
Well, recently the Vietnamese government has continuously made moves to increase the transparencies of the stock market. So how does this help the confidence of foreign investors when investing in the stock market of Vietnam?
From the standpoint of particularly European and UK registered funds, that one of the concepts of ESG investing is all about governance, and as governance improves, then your valuations, your discount rate that you use to put a valuation estimate on an asset or even on a country will decline, and when the discount rate goes down, that means the value of the asset goes up. So the longer term sort of push toward anti-corruption and better governance in general, both at the public governance and also the corporate governance, I think is for sure a long-term positive for Vietnam.
We have seen the stock market going down for the past few days. Is it a possible downtrend or just a small fluctuation?
Domestic investors will get in ahead of the foreigners every time. So what we'll see, I think, is a big surge in share prices. I think a multi-year bull market is likely in that scenario. You have to couple that with what's going on in the economy, which is the economy starting to improve this year. I think next year actually looks much better as manufacturing improves, global demand remains high. In Vietnam specifically, the property markets are still sort of bouncing along at the bottom, right? We really haven't seen a big uptrend in property in the property cycle, but we probably will in 2025. So you put all those things together, and I think that 2025 could be a boom year for Vietnam, and that we will start to see that this year, I think, in 2024. You're talking about FTSE making an announcement in September. The markets start to move. The property market recovers in 2025. The actual upgrade comes in 2025. FTSE, of course, is the junior partner, in this story. The more important partner is MSCI, and even the government's targets are for that to occur subsequently, because MSCI is stricter in how they judge these things. So when you put all these things together, I think you have a very strong argument for a multi-year bull market for Vietnam.
Through the recent discussions, we can see three important factors that Vietnam needs to pay attention to if it wants to upgrade the stock market, which are effectively applying the KRX system, removing margin regulation for foreign investors, and equal treatment for foreign investors. And if these problems are resolved soon, the plan to upgrade with FTSE in 2025 and MSCI in 2026 is completely feasible and will open up a multi-year growth period for investment funds in Vietnam. And once again, thank you our guests for joining our program. And that's it for this edition of BizLive. To rewatch our program, you can log on to vtvgo.vn or download our mobile application VTV4. Thanks for watching and see you next time.